Wei Lang had crossed the South Atlantic 17 times, but the torpedo that hit the SS Benlamond at midnight gave him 12 seconds to live. 750 miles from landmass, the lifeboat sank before he reached it. His life jacket tore apart. He grabbed 3 wooden planks and rope before the ocean swallowed everything. No food, no water, no land for 1,000 miles. This is one of the most extraordinary feats of human endurance ever recorded at sea. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 3 days before the torpedo, Wei Lang worked alone in the cargo hold while the rest of the crew played cards on deck. He preferred it this way. 8 years as a merchant sailor had taught him that checking the cargo straps twice meant sleeping better when storms hit. The SS Benlamond carried wartime cargo, steel, rubber, machinery, bound for British forces in Cape Town. Heavy loads that could shift and punch through a hull if the straps failed. Wei ran his hand along each steel band, feeling for frayed edges and weak points. His father had taught him this on fishing boats in Hainan before Wei could read. "Your hands know things your eyes miss," the old man would say. Wei was 31 now, had survived one sinking already back in 40. That experience burned a simple lesson into his brain. Most sailors died because they didn't prepare for the worst. He checked the life jacket storage near his bunk. 3 were torn, fabric rotted through from poor maintenance. He made a mental note to report it, though the British officers rarely listened to Chinese crew concerns. The ship had 4 Chinese sailors total. The officers kept their distance, spoke only when giving orders. Wei climbed back on deck as the sun dropped toward the horizon. The South Atlantic stretched endlessly in every direction, deep blue water rolling in long swells. He'd crossed this ocean 17 times without incident, knew its moods, its patterns. Right now it looked calm, almost gentle, but Wei had seen it turn violent in minutes. "You volunteering for night watch again?" Chen Wei, another Chinese sailor, called from the card game. "Someone should," Wei said. Chen laughed. "You're too serious. Come play cards." Wei shook his head. He'd take the midnight shift. Fewer people around, time to think. He sent most of his pay home to Hainan to his mother and 2 younger brothers. 8 years of this work, moving cargo across oceans while war raged in Europe and Asia. The money was good. The isolation suited him. He walked to the bow and studied the route in his mind. They were 750 miles from the African coast, roughly 1,000 miles from South America. The shipping lanes to Cape Town ran another 4 days south. He'd memorized these distances on every voyage, tracked current patterns, calculated drift rates. Old habits from fishing with his father, who taught him to always know where land was, even when you couldn't see it. The water temperature had dropped 2 degrees in the last day. Wei noticed these things. A warm current from the north was meeting colder water from the south. That meant weather could change fast. He checked his pocket knife, made sure it was secured, checked his belt, made sure it was tight. Small preparations, the kind that didn't matter until they were the only things that mattered. At midnight, Wei took his position on deck. The stars were brilliant, no moon. The ship's engines thrummed steadily beneath his feet. Everything felt normal. Routine. That's when the torpedo hit. The explosion came from the starboard side, aft section. Wei felt it through the deck before he heard it, a massive shudder that knocked him sideways. Then the sound hit, a roar that made his ears ring. Orange fire bloomed against the darkness. The ship tilted, not slowly, fast, 30 degrees in seconds. Wei's training kicked in before his mind could process what happened. He sprinted toward the lifeboat station, boots pounding on deck that was already slanting beneath him. Men were screaming below decks, some trapped. The smell of fuel oil cut through the air, thick and choking. The lifeboat hung from its davits, already crowded. 8 men fighting to climb in. One davit was jammed. The boat swung at a crazy angle. Wei reached for the rope ladder just as a second explosion tore through the ship, the boiler. The force of it lifted him off his feet. The SS Benlamond broke in half. Wei watched it happen in the firelight. The ship folded like wet cardboard, bow and stern tilting up as the middle collapsed. His section, the forward part, began sinking fast, nose first. The jammed lifeboat tore free. It hit the water upside down. Men spilled into the ocean, their screams cut short by the cold Atlantic. Wei ran to the life jacket storage he'd checked earlier. Grabbed one. The fabric tore in his hands like paper. Rotten. Useless. He threw it down, grabbed another. Same thing. 3 more, all deteriorated. The deck tilted 45 degrees now. Water was rushing up the bow. Wei had maybe 20 seconds before the ship went under and took him with it. He looked for anything that would float. 3 deck planks had torn loose from the explosion, still connected by splinters. A coil of hemp rope hung from a cleat near the rail. Wei grabbed the rope, 3/4 inch thick, maybe 20 feet long. He dropped to his knees on the slanting deck and worked fast. His father's knots. The ones learned on fishing boats when he was 7 years old. Square lash. Clove hitch. His hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over while his mind screamed at him to jump, to get off the ship now. 10 seconds. He lashed the 3 planks together in a rough triangle. Not elegant, not strong, but something. 5 seconds. Wei grabbed his makeshift raft and ran for the rail. The bow was nearly vertical now, pointing at the stars. He could hear metal groaning, the sound of a dying ship. Men were still in the water, thrashing. Oil fires spread across the surface. He saw fins cutting through the flames, sharks already circling. Wei jumped, 25 feet down into black water. The impact drove the air from his lungs. Oil slicked his face, burned his eyes. He surfaced coughing, still gripping the rope attached to his 3 planks. The raft bobbed next to him. Behind him, the forward section of the SS Benjamin slipped beneath the waves. The suction pulled at his legs, but he kicked hard, swimming away from the dying ship. Other men weren't so lucky. He heard them scream as the ship dragged them down. Wei held onto his planks and watched his ship disappear into the South Atlantic. The night passed in cold and silence. Wei tied himself to the planks with the rope, looping it around his chest and under his arms. His body shook uncontrollably. The South Atlantic water was 60 degrees, cold enough to kill in hours without protection. He forced himself to stay still, conserve energy, let his body heat what little water was trapped in his clothes. The oil fires burned out. Darkness swallowed everything. Wei could hear men calling out in the distance, voices getting weaker. By the time false dawn lightened the eastern sky, the voices had stopped. When the sun finally broke the horizon, Wei saw the truth of his situation. Nothing. Empty ocean in every direction. No debris, no survivors, no boats. Just him and 3 pieces of wood lashed together with rope. He pulled himself fully onto the planks and took inventory. The raft measured roughly 5 feet on each side, forming a crude triangle. The planks were each about 8 inches wide, thick enough to support his weight if he distributed it carefully. The rope, he had maybe 15 feet of it after tying the lashings. His clothes, cotton shirt, canvas pants, both soaked. Leather belt, and miraculously, still in his pocket, his knife. That was everything. Everything he had to survive with. No food, no water, no way to signal, no way to navigate except by sun and stars. Wei's mouth was already dry. He'd swallowed seawater during the sinking, which made it worse. His lips were starting to crack. He knew from his previous sinking that he had maybe 3 days without water. After that, his body would start shutting down. He forced himself to think clearly. The Torpedo hit at midnight on March 23rd. They'd been 750 miles from the African coast, roughly 1,000 miles from South America. The nearest shipping lanes were 1,200 miles south toward Cape Town. The current, that was critical. They'd been in the South Atlantic Gyre, where water circulated in a massive clockwise pattern. If Wei remembered correctly, and his life depended on remembering correctly, the current here flowed east, northeast, toward Africa, but painfully slow. Maybe 10 to 15 miles per day if he was lucky. 750 miles at 15 miles per day meant 50 days, minimum. Wei pushed that calculation out of his mind. Thinking about 50 days without food or water was how men went insane. He needed to focus on the next hour, then the next, then the next. First problem, the sun. It was already burning his face and arms. Without shade, he'd be severely burned by nightfall. He used his knife to carefully work at one of the rope strands, separating fibers. It took 30 minutes to create enough material to weave between the planks, giving him something to grip onto. Second problem, thirst. No solution yet. He'd need rain. When it came, he'd need a way to catch it. Third problem, staying sane. Wei started talking to himself, out loud, in Mandarin, then in the English he'd learned from British officers. Hearing his own voice helped, made the emptiness less absolute. "You've survived worse," he said. A lie, but a useful one. He spotted something floating 100 yards away, a piece of debris from the ship. Wei made his first critical decision. He'd swim for it. He tied the rope around his waist and knotted the other end to the planks. The swim would be dangerous. If the current pulled him past the rope's length, he'd lose everything. Wei slipped into the water and started swimming. His arms burned. The oil on the surface stung his eyes. 50 yards out, he could see what it was. A wooden crate lid, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. Waterlogged, but it would add stability to the raft. He grabbed it and pulled himself back hand over hand along the rope. We tied the rope around his waist first, then secured the other end to the raft. If the current pulled him past the rope's reach, he'd lose everything. He slipped into the water. The swim was harder than it looked. The debris was drifting, moving away from him as he moved toward it. His arms burned. The oil slick on the surface stung his eyes, coated his mouth. 50 yards felt like 500, but he kept swimming, pulling himself through the water with steady strokes his father had taught him. It was a wooden crate lid, 2 feet by 3 feet, waterlogged and heavy but salvageable. Wei grabbed it and turned back toward his raft. The current had pulled the planks farther away. He was at the end of his rope, literally. He wrapped both hands around the line and pulled himself back, dragging the crate lid with him. When he reached the raft, Wei was exhausted. He rested for 10 minutes, then forced himself to keep working. The crate lid could become a fourth plank, make the raft more stable. He used his knife to work the nails out of the lid's frame. 3 bent nails. Not much, but better than nothing. Over the next hour, Wei spotted 2 more pieces of debris. A canvas tarp fragment, torn but still 4 feet square. And the real prize, an empty glass bottle with a cork stopper wedged tight. The bottle was maybe 12 ounces, thick glass that hadn't shattered in the explosion. Wei made 2 more swims to retrieve them. Each time he ventured out, he risked the rope snapping or losing sight of the raft. But he needed these items. The tarp could provide shade. The bottle was life itself, his first water container. By mid-afternoon, he'd collected everything within swimming distance. The current was dispersing debris rapidly, spreading it across miles of ocean. Wei decided to stop. Each swim drained energy he couldn't spare. He spent the rest of daylight improving his raft, used the bent nails to better secure the original 3 planks, then added the crate lid as a fourth side. The canvas tarp he stretched across 2 corners, creating a small lean-to that provided shade for his head and shoulders. It wasn't much, but it was something. The bottle he cleaned obsessively, dunking it repeatedly in seawater, shaking it out, checking for cracks. The cork was swollen from water but still tight. When rain came, and it had to come, this bottle would save his life. As the sun dropped toward the horizon, Wei took stock of his situation. His hands were raw from working rope and wood. His face felt tight from sunburn. His tongue was swelling from thirst. He'd been in the water roughly 18 hours now. The physical discomfort was manageable. What terrified him was the silence, the absolute emptiness. No ships, no planes, no birds. Nothing but water in every direction. That first night on the raft, Wei didn't sleep. He lay under his canvas lean-to, watching stars wheel overhead, feeling the gentle rocking of the ocean. His lips were cracked and bleeding. His throat burned. He knew tomorrow would be worse, and the day after that even worse. But he'd survived day 1. That had to count for something. Day 2 brought agony. Wei's tongue had swollen so much he could barely close his mouth. His lips cracked deeper, blood mixing with salt water. Every breath burned his throat. He was entering the critical dehydration phase, the point where his body would start shutting down. He lay motionless under the canvas, trying to minimize sweat loss. Movement meant water loss. Water loss meant death. Simple math. By midday, Wei was hallucinating. He saw ships on the horizon, watched them appear and disappear, knew they weren't real but looked anyway, his mind playing tricks, offering hope where none existed. Then the sky changed. Wei noticed it late afternoon. Clouds building to the west, darkening from white to gray. His father's voice came back to him. "Watch the clouds, boy. They tell you everything." These clouds meant rain, maybe within hours. Wei forced himself upright despite the dizziness. He had to prepare, had to be ready when the rain came. He arranged the canvas tarp into a funnel shape, with the lowest corner positioned over his bottle opening. Used rope to secure the corners, creating tension so water would flow downward. The wait was torture. 2 hours watching those clouds approach, praying they wouldn't veer away. His throat was so dry he couldn't swallow. His vision blurred at the edges. The first drops hit just after sunset. Wei tilted his head back, mouth open, catching drops on his tongue. The relief was instant and overwhelming. He wanted to cry but had no moisture for tears. Then the real rain came, a sudden squall with heavy drops and violent wind. Waves slapped against the raft, sending spray across the planks. Wei scrambled to protect his water collection system. The canvas tore loose from one corner. He grabbed it with both hands, holding it steady even as waves crashed over him. Water funneled toward the bottle. He watched it fill, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3. The bottle was maybe 1/3 full when a wave hit the raft sideways, nearly capsizing it. The bottle tipped. Wei lunged for it, catching it just before it rolled into the ocean. He'd saved maybe 4 ounces. Maybe. Wei's hands shook as he brought the bottle to his lips. Every instinct screamed at him to drink it all, to gulp it down fast. But he forced himself to stop after 2 small sips. The water hit his stomach and immediately came back up. He vomited over the side of the raft, losing half of what he'd drunk. "Slow," he told himself in Mandarin. "Drink slow." He waited 10 minutes, then took another small sip, held it in his mouth, let it absorb before swallowing. This time it stayed down. The storm passed as quickly as it came. Wei had maybe 3 ounces of water in his bottle and another 2 ounces he'd managed to drink and keep down. Not enough, not nearly enough, but enough to live another day. He lay back on the wet planks, exhausted. His body ached everywhere. But he was alive. The rain had saved him. Wei knew he needed more than water. He needed food. Tomorrow he'd try to fish. Tonight he'd rest and let the precious water in his bottle be enough. He fell asleep holding the bottle against his chest like a treasure. Day 3, Wei woke to sun and calm water. His throat still burned, but he could swallow again. The water had brought him back from the edge. He allowed himself 1 more small sip from the bottle, then forced himself to stop. Had to ration. Rain might not come again for days. Now he needed food. His stomach cramped with hunger. He'd eaten nothing since the night before the torpedo hit. His body was starting to consume itself. Wei pulled a thread from his cotton shirt, twisted it tight to make a fishing line. From the canvas tarp edge, he extracted more fibers, braiding them together until he had roughly 10 feet of makeshift line. The bent nail from the crate became his hook. He straightened it as much as possible with his knife, then bent the tip into a crude barb. The bait problem stopped him cold. Fish wouldn't bite an empty hook. He had nothing to offer. Then Wei remembered something his father did once during a lean season. The old man had cut a thin strip from his own heel, used it as bait. "The fish don't care where meat comes from," he'd said. Wei looked at his feet. The skin was already damaged, waterlogged and peeling. He chose a spot on his heel where the skin was loose. Used his knife to cut a thin strip, maybe 1/2 inch long and 1/4 inch wide. The pain was sharp but bearable. He baited his hook and dropped the line over the side. Nothing happened for an hour. Wei sat motionless, holding the line between his fingers, feeling for any movement. The sun beat down. His vision swam. He forced himself to stay focused. Then he felt it. A tug, small but definite. Wei jerked the line up. A fish came with it, tiny, maybe 6 inches long, silvery scales flashing in the sunlight. It thrashed on the hook. Wei grabbed it with both hands and slammed it against the plank to kill it. His first catch, his first food in 3 days. Wei ate it raw, started with the organs, liver, heart, intestines. His father taught him the organs held the most nutrition. The taste was overwhelming, rich and slightly bitter. His stomach lurched, but he forced himself to chew slowly, swallow carefully. The flesh was tougher. He tore pieces off with his teeth, working methodically from head to tail. Ate everything except the biggest bones, even sucked the eyeballs for moisture. When he finished, Wei's hands were covered in fish blood and scales. He washed them in the ocean, then drank another small sip of water from his bottle. The fish sat heavy in his stomach but stayed down. He'd done it. Caught food, eaten, survived. Over the next 4 days, Wei refined his system. Cut more bait from his feet and calves, always rotating spots to let areas heal. Caught 2 to 3 small fish per day. Learned their patterns. Dawn and dusk were best for fishing. Midday, they went deep where he couldn't reach them. He discovered barnacles growing on the underside of his raft, scraped them off carefully with his knife blade, ate them raw. They tasted like concentrated salt but provided protein. Rain came again on day 5. This time Wei was ready. Collected nearly a full bottle, drank slowly over 24 hours. His body was adapting, becoming more efficient. By day 7, Wei had established a routine. Check equipment at dawn. Fish. Rest during peak sun. Fish again at dusk. Watch stars at night for navigation. Mark each day with a notch on the plank. 7 notches, 7 days survived. He'd made it a week. This story takes time to craft. If you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The second week brought a different kind of challenge. Wei's body had adjusted to the starvation diet, but his mind was starting to fracture. On day 10, he saw his father sitting on the opposite corner of the raft. The old man looked exactly as Wei remembered. Weathered face, calloused hands, the same faded blue shirt he'd worn fishing. Wei knew it wasn't real, knew it was his brain creating company to fight the isolation, but he talked to the hallucination anyway. "I'm rationing the water like you taught me," Wei said in Mandarin. His father nodded, said nothing, then disappeared. The hallucinations came and went. Sometimes Wei could separate them from reality. Other times he couldn't tell the difference. He'd catch himself having full conversations with people who weren't there, then snap back to awareness and find himself alone on the raft, talking to empty air. The routine kept him functional. Every morning he checked his equipment. The rope was holding but starting to fray in spots. He reinforced the weak sections with threads from his shirt. The canvas tarp had torn in 3 places. He patched them as best he could, knowing eventually it would fall apart completely. His body was changing in ways that frightened him. His ribs showed clearly through his skin. His arms and legs were losing muscle mass, getting thinner each day. But his hands had toughened into leather, calloused from constant work with rope and fish. His feet were a mess of cuts and scabs from providing bait, but they'd stopped bleeding as easily. The fishing had become almost meditative. Wei could read the water now, predict where fish would be. He learned to distinguish between different species by the way they pulled the line. Small silver fish hit fast and hard. Larger ones moved slow and steady. He avoided anything that looked strange or colorful. Those were often poisonous. On day 15, Wei caught a puffer fish by accident. He recognized it immediately from his father's warnings. The spines, the distinctive shape. One bite of the wrong part, and he'd be dead in minutes. He carefully removed it from the hook and threw it back. Rain came every 3 to 5 days, just often enough to keep him alive. Wei had learned to predict it with increasing accuracy. The clouds, the wind direction, the way the air felt on his skin. He was becoming part of the ocean's rhythm, reading its patterns like his father read the waters off Hainan. By day 20, Wei had drifted maybe 200 miles east. He calculated this by tracking the sun's position, the stars at night. The current was carrying him toward Africa, but painfully slow. At this rate, he'd need 2 more months to reach land, maybe 3. The math was brutal. 2 months meant 60 days. He'd already survived 20. Could his body last another 60? Could his mind? Wei marked his 20th notch on the plank and allowed himself a moment of pride. 3 weeks adrift. Most sailors died within a week. He tripled that, but pride was dangerous. It led to carelessness, and carelessness meant death. That night, Wei talked to his father's ghost again. "Am I going to make it?" The hallucination smiled. "You're still asking questions. That means you're still alive." It wasn't much comfort, but it was something. Day 34 brought the first major storm since Wei had established his routine. He saw it building all morning, massive thunderheads stacking up to the west, turning the sky black. This wasn't a simple rain squall. This was dangerous. Wei prepared as best he could. He secured the canvas tarp with extra rope lashings, tied himself to the raft at 3 points, waist, chest, and ankle. If a wave flipped him over, he needed to stay attached. Made sure his bottle was wedged tight between 2 planks where it couldn't roll away. The storm hit at noon with winds that screamed across the water. Waves grew from 3 feet to 10 feet in minutes. The raft bucked like a wild animal. Wei flattened himself against the planks, gripping the rope with both hands, and held on. A wave crashed over him, filling his mouth with salt water. He spit it out and gasped for air before the next wave hit. The world became chaos, water and wind and the terrible sound of waves hammering the raft. He couldn't see, could barely breathe. Just held on and waited. The canvas tarp ripped away. Wei watched it fly into the air and disappear. His shelter, his water collector, gone in seconds. He wanted to scream but couldn't waste the energy. Another massive wave lifted the entire raft, suspended it in the air for a moment, then slammed it down. The impact drove the air from Wei's lungs. He heard wood crack, felt the raft shift beneath him in a wrong way. One of the planks had split, not completely, but enough that water was rushing through the gap. The raft was taking on water, becoming less buoyant. Wei couldn't do anything about it, not in this storm. He just held on and prayed the rope lashings would hold, that the planks wouldn't separate completely, that he wouldn't be thrown into the water where the waves would smash him to death. The storm lasted 6 hours, the longest 6 hours of Wei's life, longer than the torpedo attack, longer than the first 3 days of thirst, because this time he was helpless. Couldn't fish, couldn't collect water, couldn't do anything but survive the violence of the ocean. When the storm finally passed, Wei lay exhausted on the damaged raft. His hands were raw and bleeding from gripping rope. His ribs ached from impact with the planks. Every muscle screamed. The damage assessment was grim. Canvas tarp gone. 1 plank split halfway through. Rope frayed in multiple places. And worst of all, his bottle was cracked. Not broken, but a hairline crack ran from the neck to the base. It would still hold water, but barely. Any hard impact and it would shatter. Wei spent the rest of the day making repairs, used his knife to carve notches in the split plank, then lashed it tight with rope to prevent further splitting. Reinforced every rope connection on the raft, cut what remained of his shirt into strips to wrap around his bleeding hands. Without the canvas, he had no sun protection and no way to easily collect rain. He'd have to catch water directly in the bottle during storms, or drink it straight from the sky. That night, Wei stared at the stars and did the math. He'd survived 34 days, maybe covered 300 miles, still had 400 miles minimum to Africa, at least another month if the current held. But now his equipment was failing. The raft was damaged, his bottle cracked, his body weaker than ever. For the first time since the sinking, Wei seriously considered the possibility that he might not make it. The days after the storm blurred together. Wei entered what he would later think of as the emptiness, a psychological void where time lost all meaning. He'd mark his daily notch on the plank, but sometimes couldn't remember if he'd already marked it. Once he counted the notches and found 47, but couldn't recall the passage from day 34 to day 47. The hallucinations became more frequent and more real. His father appeared regularly now, offering advice that Wei couldn't tell was genuine memory or invented comfort. His mother showed up, cooking fish soup in a kitchen that materialized on the raft corner. Wei would watch her work, smell the soup, then blink and find himself alone with raw fish in his hands. The scariest moments were when he couldn't distinguish reality from hallucination. On day 52, Wei spent an entire afternoon convinced he'd been rescued by a passing freighter. He packed his few possessions, prepared to climb aboard, waved at the crew who waved back. Then the ship dissolved like smoke, and he was alone on the raft, waving at empty ocean. After that, He stopped trusting his eyes completely, used his hands to verify everything, touched the planks to confirm they were real, felt the rope, counted his notches physically, running his fingers over each cut mark. The physical deterioration accelerated. Wei's body had consumed most of its fat and was now eating muscle. His legs were stick-thin, barely functional. His arms could still work rope and catch fish, but slowly, with effort. His face had hollowed out, cheekbones sharp under papery skin. When he looked at his hands, they seemed to belong to someone else, skeletal, covered in scars and scabs. But his body had also adapted in remarkable ways. His metabolism had slowed dramatically, requiring less food and water to maintain basic functions. His skin had toughened into leather that barely burned anymore. His kidneys had become ultra-efficient, extracting every drop of moisture from the fish he ate. He was becoming something different, not quite human anymore, a creature built purely for survival. On day 60, Wei caught no fish. The water around him was empty, dead. He tried for hours with different bait, different techniques. Nothing. His stomach cramped with hunger, but there was nothing he could do. Some days the fish just weren't there. Day 61 was the same. No fish, no rain. Wei drank the last water from his cracked bottle and lay motionless on the raft, conserving energy. Day 62 brought delirium. Wei couldn't think clearly anymore. Couldn't remember why he was on the raft or where he was going. He knew he was supposed to do something, but couldn't remember what. The sun beat down and he couldn't move to escape it. On day 63, rain came. Wei barely had the strength to lift his bottle. The water hit his face and he opened his mouth, letting it pour in. Drank until he vomited, then drank more. The rain lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, Wei had maybe 8 ounces in his bottle. The water brought clarity back. His mind sharpened. He remembered, survive. That was the task. Just survive one more day. He caught 2 fish that evening, ate them slowly, marked day 63 on the plank, 2 months adrift. Wei stared at the notches and couldn't believe it. 63 days. He'd survived 63 days on 3 planks of wood with nothing but a knife and a cracked bottle. His father's ghost appeared that night. "You're going to make it," the hallucination said. "How do you know?" Wei asked. "Because you're too stubborn to die." Wei laughed. It hurt his cracked lips, but he laughed anyway. Day 91 brought the first real sign that something was changing. Wei noticed the watercolor shifting from deep blue to greenish tint. His father had taught him what that meant. Coastal upwelling, nutrients from shallow water mixing with deep currents. On day 94, Wei saw a bird. First bird in 2 months, a seabird, white with black wingtips, circling his raft. Birds meant land. They didn't venture more than 300 miles from nesting sites. The bird flew off, heading east, northeast, the same direction Wei was drifting. On day 97, Wei caught different fish species. Smaller, colorful fish he recognized from coastal waters. Day 100 arrived with gray skies. Wei marked his 100th notch. 100 days adrift. No one survived this long, yet here he was. His body was a ruin, every rib visible, skin hanging loose, his beard grown wild and matted with salt. Day 103 brought another bird, then 2 more on day 104. On day 106, Wei woke to severe pain in his abdomen, sharp, stabbing pain, his body giving out. The pain lasted all day. Wei couldn't fish, couldn't move without agony. By evening, he was running a fever. Day 107 was worse. The fever spiked. Wei couldn't keep down water. Everything came back up. After 107 days, his body had reached its limit. Wei drifted in fever dreams. When lucid, he accepted what was happening. The ocean was going to win. Day 108. Wei woke still alive. The fever had broken slightly. Wei forced himself to stop eating fish. Something was poisoning him. He ate only barnacles for 3 days, drank tiny sips of water. Day 110. The fever spiked again. The fever broke that night. The crisis had passed. He started eating fish again on day 112. Small amounts. Kept it down. By day 115, Wei had recovered enough to resume his routine. The hallucination stopped. His mind became crystal sharp. On day 118, Wei saw something on the horizon, a darkness that wasn't clouds. He watched it all day. By sunset, he was certain. Land, maybe 40 miles away, but the current wasn't taking him directly toward it. He was drifting parallel. He might drift past it. That night, Wei decided, tomorrow he would paddle. Day 119. Wei began paddling at first light. He used his hands cupped as paddles. Each stroke burned. He kept paddling. The crate lid worked better. It was agony, but he kept going. Wei paddled for 2 hours, then collapsed. He'd moved maybe half a mile closer. By nightfall, he'd paddled 6 times. Closed maybe 2 miles, 38 miles to go. Day 120, Wei woke and paddled immediately. He could see details now. Trees, hills, buildings. Wei paddled 8 times, made 3 miles. Day 121 brought birds everywhere. The shore was 30 miles away, close enough to see palm trees. Wei paddled 10 times. His hands were destroyed. Day 122. Shore was 25 miles out. He paddled 12 times, made 4 miles. 21 to go. Day 123. Wei couldn't stand. He paddled sitting. 18 miles to shore. He could smell land. Wei paddled until his arms stopped responding. 15 miles to go. Day 124. Wei woke to surf sound. 12 miles out. He could see people on the beach. Wei tried to paddle, but his arms wouldn't respond. He spent the day drifting. The current was carrying him parallel to coast. That night, Wei lay staring at lights on shore, 12 miles away. Day 125. Wei made a calculation. If he could angle the raft eastward, he might close the gap. He used the last of his shirt to create a small sail. Wei also noticed the tide, water flowing toward shore in morning. If he timed it right, he could gain ground. He waited until the current shifted, then paddled. 10 strokes, rest, 10 more. By afternoon, he'd closed a mile, 11 miles to shore. Day 126. Shore was closer, maybe 10 miles. He paddled, 5 strokes at a time. A fishing boat appeared. Wei tried to yell. Nothing came out. He waved weakly. Too far. It didn't see him. He kept paddling. Made another mile. 9 miles. Day 127. Wei couldn't sit up. He paddled lying on his side. Shore was 8 miles away. He could hear sounds. Dogs barking. Another fishing boat appeared. Closer, maybe a mile away. Wei grabbed the crate lid and waved it overhead. The sunlight caught the wet wood. The boat didn't change course. Wei collapsed. Then he noticed the current was different, pulling him toward shore. By nightfall, he'd moved 2 miles closer without paddling, 6 miles. Day 128. The current was carrying him toward land. 5 miles. 4. 3. He could see people clearly. 2 miles out. Surf zone was visible. Wei decided. When close enough, he'd swim. 1 mile out. Wei could see a man on the beach. See me, Wei thought. The man turned away. Half a mile out. Wei was in the surf zone. He untied himself, gripped the rope one last time, then let go and slipped into the water. The water was cold. Wei gasped. His arms moved automatically, swimming strokes his father taught him, but his muscles had nothing left. A wave lifted him, carried him forward, then dropped him. Wei went under, came up coughing. His feet touched bottom. Sand, solid ground for the first time in 128 days. Wei tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't hold him. He fell face first into the surf. A wave rolled over him, pushing him up the beach. He crawled, pulled himself forward with his hands. Another wave pushed him higher. Wei was in the surf zone, waves washing over his legs but his chest on dry sand. He couldn't move another inch. Lay there and waited. Then he heard voices, shouting in Portuguese, footsteps running, hands grabbing him, lifting him. The hands carried him up the beach. Wei saw faces, a man with a black beard, a younger man, maybe his son. They laid him on dry sand. The bearded man was talking fast. The younger man ran off, came back with a bottle, water. They poured it into Wei's mouth. He choked. They tried again, slower. Wei swallowed. The water hit his stomach and he vomited. The bearded man held up his hand. Wait. Slow. He poured tiny amounts, waiting between each sip. Wei kept this down. More people gathered, all staring at this skeletal creature. Wei barely looked human. His beard hung to his chest, matted with salt. He weighed maybe 80 pounds. The bearded man was Antonio, a fisherman in the village of Valença on the Brazilian coast. He'd seen something flashing in the surf, expecting driftwood. Instead, he'd found Wei. Antonio and his son Carlos carried Wei to their boat, gave him more water in tiny sips, wrapped him in fishing nets. Carlos ran to the village, came back with the doctor, an older man named Silva. The doctor took one look at Wei and shook his head. Antonio argued back. The doctor thought Wei was too far gone. Antonio insisted they try. They carried Wei to the doctor's house, laid him on a real bed. First bed in 4 months, Silva began treating him, started an IV, examined Wei's body, severe malnutrition, dehydration, infected cuts, possible organ damage. Silva asked questions in Portuguese. Wei couldn't answer. Antonio brought a translator who spoke English. Through him, Wei communicated basic information. Chinese sailor, ship torpedoed, drifted, how long? Wei held up fingers, 128 days. The translator stared. Said something in Portuguese. Everyone went silent. No one survived 128 days adrift. But here was Wei. Silva asked which ship. Wei whispered Benloman. The translator wrote it down, asked when it sank. Wei held up 3 fingers. March. Then 2, then 3. March 23rd. The translator calculated. March 23rd to July 28th. 127 days in the water, plus 1 day to reach shore. 128 total. Silva asked what Wei ate. Wei made eating motions. Fish, raw fish, the translator explained. Silva's eyes widened. Asked what Wei drank. Wei made rain motions with his hands. Only rain, caught in bottle. Silva shook his head in disbelief. Over the next 3 days, Wei stayed in Silva's house. The doctor fed him tiny amounts every few hours, broth first, then mashed vegetables, then small pieces of bread soaked in milk. Wei's stomach couldn't handle solid food yet. On the 4th day, Silva moved Wei to a proper hospital in Salvador, 3 hours north. Wei was transported by truck, lying on blankets in the back. The journey was agony. Every bump sent pain through his damaged body. At Salvador Hospital, doctors examined Wei thoroughly, took measurements. His weight was 79 pounds. He'd lost over 60 pounds. His body fat percentage was near 0, muscles severely atrophied. Skin showed extensive sun damage and scarring. Teeth were loose from vitamin deficiency. His feet had permanent nerve damage from the cuts he'd made for bait. But he was alive. Against every medical probability, Wei Lang was alive. The hospital contacted the British consul in Rio de Janeiro. The consul sent a representative who interviewed Wei through a translator. Wei provided details about the SS Benloman, the ship's route, the cargo, the crew composition, the torpedo attack. Everything he remembered. The consul checked British naval records. The SS Benloman had indeed been torpedoed on March 23, 1943, in the South Atlantic. 56 crew members total, 23 confirmed dead, 28 rescued by passing ships within 3 days, 5 listed as missing, including Wei Lang. Wei was the 24th survivor, the only one to survive beyond 1 week adrift. The story reached Brazilian newspapers within days. Chinese sailor survives 128 days adrift. Papers in Rio, São Paulo, Salvador all ran the story. Some didn't believe it, thought it was exaggerated or false. But the medical records, the naval records, and Wei's physical condition told the truth. Wei spent 6 weeks in Salvador Hospital, slowly gaining weight, slowly rebuilding strength. Antonio visited twice, bringing gifts of food and clothing. The 2 men couldn't speak the same language but didn't need to. Antonio had saved Wei's life by believing he could be saved. The Chinese diplomatic mission in Rio de Janeiro arranged Wei's passage home, but the war was still raging. Safe passage across the Pacific was impossible. Wei would have to wait. He spent 3 months in Brazil, recovering in a small apartment the mission provided in Salvador. Antonio visited weekly, teaching Wei Portuguese, bringing fish from his catch. Wei would hold the fish and remember the hundreds he'd caught on the raft. By October 1943, Wei had gained back 40 pounds. His weight was 119 pounds, still thin but functional. His strength had returned enough that he could walk without assistance, though his feet would never fully recover. He walked with a slight limp that would stay with him the rest of his life. The nightmares came every night. Wei would wake gasping, convinced he was back on the raft. He'd stumble to the sink and drink until his stomach hurt, reassuring himself that fresh water was real. During the day, Wei wrote everything down, every detail of his 128 days. The British consul had asked for a full report. Wei wrote in Chinese, which was then translated to English. He described the torpedo attack, the raft construction, the water collection system, the fishing techniques, the storms, the fever crisis, the final paddle to shore. The consul forwarded Wei's report to the British Admiralty. Naval survival experts read it with fascination. Wei had survived longer than any documented case of solo ocean survival. His techniques were studied and incorporated into naval survival training. In November, a U.S. Navy transport ship agreed to take Wei to San Francisco. From there, he traveled to China via military transport. The journey would take 2 months, maybe 3. Wei said goodbye to Antonio on the docks in Salvador. The old fisherman had tears in his eyes. He pressed his own pocket knife into Wei's hand, a gift to replace the one Wei had lost. "You are fisherman," Antonio said in broken English. "You need knife." Wei took it, bowed deeply. The voyage to San Francisco was strange. He had his own cabin, a real bed, 3 meals a day. The abundance was overwhelming. He couldn't eat full meals without feeling sick. Most nights he slept on deck under the stars, watching the ocean roll past. On January 15, 1944, nearly 10 months after the torpedo attack, Wei's ship docked in San Francisco. The U.S. Navy wanted to debrief him, document his survival techniques officially. The interview took 3 days. Wei sat across from 2 officers and a civilian survival expert, answering questions through a translator. They wanted every detail. How did he construct the raft? What knots did he use? How did he predict rain? Wei answered methodically, showed them Antonio's knife, demonstrated how he'd fashioned hooks from bent nails, drew diagrams of his canvas water collection system. The survival expert, a man named Harrison, took extensive notes. "Your water collection method is brilliant," he said. "We'll add it to our survival manuals." Wei nodded. He wasn't interested in recognition. He just wanted to go home. Harrison brought Wei to a Navy training facility. They had modern survival equipment laid out: life rafts, emergency supplies, water purification tablets, fishing kits. "This is what our pilots carry now," Harrison explained. "But most panic after 48 hours. You lasted 128 days with 3 planks and a knife. We need to understand how." Wei picked up one of the modern fishing kits. "Good equipment helps," he said through the translator. "But equipment isn't what saves you." What saves you? Wei thought about the fever crisis on day 107 when he'd accepted death, about the decision to keep paddling when his arms wouldn't work. "You save yourself 1 day at a time," Wei said. "You don't think about 100 days. You think about today. The ocean can't beat you if you don't let it." Wei spent the remaining week in San Francisco in a hotel near the docks. He bought a few changes of clothes, a new pair of shoes, and a notebook. Nothing else seemed necessary. He wrote letters to his family in Hainan, explaining he was alive. His family likely thought he was dead. Wei Lang was listed as missing, presumed dead. On January 28th, Wei boarded another transport ship heading west across the Pacific. The route would take him through Hawaii, Midway, Guam, and finally to mainland China. Estimated journey time, 8 to 10 weeks. The nightmares continued. Every night, Wei woke convinced he was back on the raft. He'd stumble to the sink in his cabin, drink until the panic subsided. By March, Wei reached Guam. By April, he was in mainland China. On April 22, 1944, 13 months after the torpedo attack, Wei Lang stepped off a transport truck in Haikou, Hainan. He was home. Wei's mother fainted when she saw him. She'd been hanging laundry when Wei walked up the dirt path to their house. She looked up, saw a thin man with a limp and gray-streaked hair, then recognized his face. Her legs gave out. Wei's father caught her before she hit the ground. The old man stared at Wei, tears streaming down his face. First time Wei had ever seen his father cry. "We thought you were dead," his father said. "The government sent a letter. Your ship was torpedoed. No survivors." Wei's two younger brothers came running from the house. They hugged Wei, asking 1,000 questions. Where had he been? How did he survive? Wei's mother recovered and simply held him. Didn't say anything, just held him and cried. That night, the family gathered around the table. Wei's mother cooked fish soup, the same recipe from his childhood. They asked him to tell the story. Wei did, editing out the worst parts. Just the basic facts. Torpedo, raft, 128 days, rescue in Brazil. His father listened carefully. When Wei finished, the old man nodded. "You remembered what I taught you. Reading the weather, fishing techniques. That's what saved you." "That and stubbornness," Wei said. His father smiled. Stubbornness runs in the family. Wei spent the next year recovering. His family wanted him to stay, give up the sea forever. But by late 1945, after the war ended, Wei returned to merchant sailing. His brothers thought he was crazy. "After what happened, you're going back to the ocean." Wei tried to explain. The ocean hadn't tried to kill him. A torpedo had. The ocean had simply been the ocean. He'd survived by understanding its patterns, working with them. He sailed for another 17 years, eventually earning his captain's license in 1959. Never faced another disaster. In 1962, at age 51, Wei retired from the sea. Married a woman from his village, had 3 children. He told them the full version when they were adults. His children listened in horror and awe. Wei kept certain habits his entire life. Always kept a bottle of fresh water by his bed. Checked it every night before sleeping. His wife thought it was strange until Wei explained. Then she made sure the bottle was always full. He also kept Antonio's knife. Used it for everyday tasks, but always with reverence. The knife represented proof that kindness existed, that strangers would help strangers. In 1978, a maritime historian tracked Wei down in Hainan. The historian was researching survival at sea. Wei's 128 days remained one of the longest solo survivals in maritime history. The historian interviewed Wei extensively. Wei was 67 now, hair completely gray, the limp more pronounced. But his memory of those 128 days was crystal clear. "How did you do it?" the historian asked. "What kept you going when most men would have given up?" Wei thought about the question. "I didn't think about giving up," Wei said. "I thought about the next fish I needed to catch, the next rain I needed to collect. You can't give up on today. Today is all you have." The historian asked Wei to describe the hardest moment. Wei didn't hesitate. "Day 107, the fever. I accepted I was going to die. Made peace with it. Then I woke up on day 108 still alive. That was harder than the dying part, having to keep fighting when I thought I was done." The historian published Wei's account in a maritime journal. The article included photographs of Wei holding Antonio's knife, standing on a beach in Hainan. Wei Lang died in 1994 at age 83. He passed in his sleep, surrounded by family. His last words to his grandson were simple. "I'm not afraid. I've already seen the worst. This is easy." After his death, Wei's family donated his papers to the Chinese Maritime Museum. The museum created an exhibit about Chinese merchant sailors during World War II. Wei's story became the centerpiece. They displayed Antonio's knife, Wei's handwritten account, and one of the 3 planks from his raft that Antonio had saved and sent to Wei years later. The exhibit included Wei's calculations, 128 days adrift, roughly 1,900 miles drifted, averaged 15 miles per day, caught an estimated 300 fish, survived on maybe 30 gallons of rainwater total, lost 62 pounds, survived 3 major storms and 1 near-fatal fever. Marine survival experts still study Wei's case. His techniques are taught in naval academies worldwide. The canvas water collection system he improvised became standard in survival manuals. Wei's story represents more than just survival. It demonstrates what humans can endure when pushed to absolute limits. When stripped of everything except will and knowledge, the ocean took Way's ship, his crew, his health, and nearly his life. But it couldn't take his determination. Couldn't break his spirit. Couldn't make him surrender. 128 days, 3 planks of wood, 1 knife, 1 bottle, and the unbreakable will to see one more sunrise. That's what it took for Wei Lang to survive the South Atlantic and come home. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and share it. It helps the next person find their way here.